Well, it's Friday night, and tonight we have a special guest. Brian Wang's here to help me un take
Unpack,
a
analyze.
look,
Yeah.
take a look at what happened today. Because you see, Brian, I think you were paying attention because I think we had some text back and forth.
Hmm.
It was up in the pre-market. It was
Hmm.
down most of the day, and then it finished up a dime,
Right.
whole dime.
Right. To the
So
moon. To the
a lot of
moon.
a lot of activity for pretty much nothing by the end of the day.
Yeah.
There was some news. There was some things that were going on. So let's I don't know if any of these move the market, but they're all worth talking about. So first of all, you're a chart. Oh, this I'm sorry, I got the wrong script here. We could be talking about this morning's news. I could give
Yeah.
you all of this morning's news on that.
But the basic your point why you're looking at that up is that basically the technical analysis of the Tesla stock was that we retested 250 again. So we went down to near 250 again, just like we did yesterday. And so that's a good thing. To hold above a resistance, or a support level is a good thing. And then also closing the week off, at that 250 level, that's another good thing, right? We're still in a downward channel, right?
Right?
So basically, if we go above 265, then we can go to 280, 290. But the thing is, we're in a, a
Three.
lot
You
of
meant
congestion.
three. You meant
What?
three in all of those cases.
Sorry, yeah, three. Sorry, yeah, 370, 380. Yes. But there's now, just like before when we were stuck at, like 200, before the election, 200, 210, 220, and you like move up like $3, fall $4. It started to get into a tighter and tighter range, right?
Right,
Because there's
right.
so many support levels and everything's not really moving. Um, we may or may not do that, but there's more levels to go. So right now, the next big thing is one get about 265 and a bit, and then but then right above that is like 270, 280. There's this downward channel thing. So then we have to break through that. So there's now there's a lot of walls, technical walls that we have to get over before we can like, okay, we're running free again. We're above all-time highs. And, it's just a lot more technical work to do for the bulls and buyers to get over certain levels.
Right. And so I think, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with what I say next because we were so close to agreeing on getting to these highs that we're at now and the highs that we were earlier. Um, that the reasons we got to those highs was about not just the Trump victory, which was helpful, but it was really around robotaxi because even the folks that talked about the Trump victory said, well, the victory is going to help us get the regulations done. And so
Right,
that makes it easier for robotaxi. So
right,
almost all of the run for 150 points was okay, robotaxi's almost here. We're gonna start seeing that the money rolling in from that.
right.
So, all right. So coming back down though
Mhm.
would have been fear that maybe, like the news is trying to gin up, some kind of problem between Trump and Elon and,
So I think the big news that kind of like we were at, at least in like beginning of the week, probably at the exact same level we're having now, 350.
right,
And then we were coming down off the 480s and stuff like that. And then we dipped hard again, right, down to 325. That 350 to 325 move and now back up to 350 seemed to be pretty much almost entirely the Elon Musk bidding for OpenAI, right? So he said, okay, I'm going to bid $97 billion for OpenAI,
mhm,
for the nonprofit version, nonprofit company of it. I want to stop you guys from going from profit to nonprofit. So that freaked out the people who remembered, wait, last time he bought Twitter, then he sold a bunch of shares in Tesla,
yeah,
and that sent us down from like 200 to 140, 100, right? So people with PTSD about that said, I don't want to be holding this because of that. So then we did that move down even though there was anyone who did any kind of like little bit of analysis on that would say, one, Sam Altman, who controls his board, will never let him buy it. He will never let him do it, right? It's just like saying, if you buy it and you keep it nonprofit, Sam doesn't get his $10 billion.
Right.
So you have 10 billion at least reasons not to let that happen.
Yeah.
And if Elon got control of the company, Sam would be fired the next day,
Right.
right? Same day, minute, the ink's dry, Sam's out. So Sam, control the board, would never, ever let that happen, right? It would, it doesn't matter how good the deal is, they could offer $1 trillion. Sam won't take it because Sam won't make money,
Right.
right? So he controls it. It will not happen, right? But now Elon just said that he would withdraw the bid
Right.
if it stays nonprofit, and it would take 2 years, even without Elon messing things up, slowing it down. It would take 2 years to go from nonprofit to profit because profit company because OpenAI is so convoluted, right, with this structure. Anyway, so bottom line is people recognize Elon will not be selling Tesla to buy OpenAI.
Right.
Never going to happen.
Right. Okay. And so then the stock popped back to where it had been.
Right back to where it's been. Right.
And there was a fair amount of other news during the week that, was potentially impactful. And even today, there was a fair amount of news that was potentially impactful. Let's talk about this one. Ray Dalio bought $62 million dollars worth. That's 151,000 shares. He thinks that the company is worth $410 last November when he
Right.
made this purchase. Now, let me just add to that. I don't know if you know this or not, but Stanley Druckenmiller, the Duquesne family, also bought
Hmm.
fourth quarter, and they
Right.
paid $403 for 37,000 shares.
Yeah.
So both Druckenmiller and Dalio were
Yeah.
buyers above 400. I think that's pretty impressive. I would think that would get the stock back above 400 all by itself.
So that, Dalio the billionaire, the
The largest, the
the other
largest,
family. Yeah.
yeah, they're the largest hedge fund in the world.
Right, right. And then the other one you mentioned, they're also billionaires. So smart money is now loading up for this big move, right? Because I've gone to some conferences where I talked to someone who manages a family office for some of these billionaire families and stuff, and oftentimes they're like, um, regular stocks are for chumps. We have better deals. Because they get so much of the inside stuff of a better deal, better trading, like before it becomes public, before this and that, that their options are so good. The choices of what they can go into is so good. Where I got a guaranteed 20% return, 30%. So for them to go for something, it's got to have like we're seeing it's going to go this monster 3x, 4x, 10x thing that we're expecting, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't bother. For them to, it's not like I'm going to pop in at 400 to go to 600 and then I'll trade out of it. It's like, no,
No.
they're making a strategic positioning thing for a really monster move.
And they're probably all buds with Ron Barron, and Ron Barron's probably going, "You guys better get in. You guys better get in."
Right, right.
So, anyway, so again, it would seem like those just that news alone, but it hasn't popped the stock in
Mhm.
the after hours, at least not the last time I checked.
Mhm.
Okay, then we had the Model Y. I think the Model Y I think the first quarter is weighing on people, uh,
Mhm.
even though it shouldn't. But lots of times people take some risk off the table if they're
Mhm.
seeing a really bad quarter kind of setting up. I
Mhm.
had Bradford Ferguson last night. He thinks it's going to be maybe as low as 350,000 cars in the first quarter. We've got what's it called? Troy Teslike thinks 350 to 400,000. AJ is at 425. So that's the highest number of the people who really do go take a hard look
Mhm.
that I've seen anyway.
Yeah,
And so he could be looking at 32 cents a share, 25 cents a share, something
right.
like that, depending on energy, of course, what
Mhm.
happens there. But nobody's only the really geeky people like me and you are looking at
Yeah,
the energy numbers as part of the first quarter. So they're
yeah.
looking at the Model Y shutdown for the quarter, or shut down in the early part of the quarter in order to start up the new ramp.
Mhm.
I'm going to go long here a little bit. Forgive me, Brian, but everything that we're hearing right now is the Model Y is going to be crazy numbers.
Hmm.
We've got the white out of Fremont is sold out.
Hmm. Yeah.
We have got today Berlin, the long range, I think it is. Is it the long
Hmm.
range or the rear wheel?
I'm
Anyway,
not
one of
sure.
the two. I can't remember. Sold out. Can't get
Hmm.
it. It's off.
Right.
It's off the page.
Right.
They actually canceled reservations that they already had.
Okay.
So we know that we've heard the word out of China that it's selling
Mhm.
like crazy.
Right.
Uh, so this is really going to come down to the ramp. And so then if there's selling out and they're selling gobs and gobs and they're in the middle of a ramp, at that point, it really doesn't matter, right? Even the unsophisticated stockholder would say that doesn't matter we got 1/4 problem here.
Right. And if we could get out, some guidance from, Tesla, about the ramp, right? To say, okay, well, one, I guess they probably won't do it until we hit some kind of milestones, right? That,
Probably.
okay, we dumped out the first 100,000 cars, or for China, we get the weekly numbers.
Right.
So, next Tuesday, we'll get some weekly numbers. So far, we have not had a great um, weekly number yet, right? Where, there was Chinese New Year and stuff like that. So I think getting to 18,000, 20,000 per week, that
Mhm.
would be huge. At least 15,000 consistently.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
basically kind of the numbers that we had before the switchover,
Right.
right? So getting to fully ramped in China, because they would do it fastest, right?
Right.
And they kind of had a okay number in January, but I think that's too much old Model Y, not the new ones, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
No, definitely old.
so
Yeah.
right, right. So we need in February, ideally, to see a good number. So less the overall quarter and more getting to full run rate. I think that would be the measure that anyone with any kind of um, looking at the company would base it on. So
Yeah.
having a bad number for April 2nd when we give the volume, that's one thing. But if we got China up to, 15,000, or if we got a really blowing number, 18,000, 20,000, where we're like beyond the old numbers,
Mhm.
right? In March,
Right.
so it's the run rate less that. The other thing about it is that besides showing that they can ramp it and get China good and US and Europe and Austin close, is that means that once your supply chain is kind of ready to go, you can then do an April or May new vehicle, right?
Right.
Because okay, I've ramped all this. A lot of similar parts, a lot of other things need to be there for the low cost vehicle,
Right.
right?
Right.
So as we need a fully ramped Model Y, and then Tesla would then roll into new vehicle ramp,
Yeah.
right? So they would announce and then new vehicle ramp. So the sooner we can get through that, like if I don't want to be over optimistic because it just isn't possible that they would do it in March. Say, okay, we got the ramp in hand and now we're announcing the new vehicle, right? But so anyways, so I think April. So I don't think one the Q1 numbers matter
Mhm.
in that regard because during the transition, if some people, idiots, flip out about the fact that, hey, we got a 350 or 400 number, right? It will be a buying opportunity, right?
Right.
Because Q2 is when what, Ford deciding to license the new vehicle, June, the supervised
Robotech.
robotaxi, unsupervised robotaxi, there's all those events plus good numbers, better numbers coming in June, but in Q2, that if you get out for just a few months to try and flip in and out, like how bad can the stock go, you know, in that kind of scenario? It is.
Yeah, and I did some polling, and I know I've got a very unique group of people that follow me on X. But I did some polling several months ago or a couple of months ago about the Model X and I'm Model X, the Model Y,
Yeah,
and it was off the charts in terms of the people that were going to be buying the new Model Y.
right.
I mean, a lot of them were replacing their old Model Y. They've been waiting for to replace. You had
Hmm.
a lot of people that were a Cybertruck, people that are waiting for the Cybertruck and they're giving up and they're going to get the Model Y.
Hmm.
You've got people that are just had never bought a Tesla ever, but they wanted their first Tesla to be this new Model Y. So I think it's going to be pretty much a barn burner in terms of sales. And then we get to Europe. It's pretty interesting that one of the models is already sold out there when
Hmm.
all the talk is about, oh, the Europeans hate Elon and it's just horrible and what are we going to do? And
Hmm.
because I
Right.
have a feeling that maybe that's 10% or 5% of the population that cares.
Right. Right. I don't think it's that many. Like I know people who really hate Elon, but so yeah, have bought or will buy a Tesla. Yeah. So they're able to distinguish that.
Right, right. Well, okay. So one of the other things that's been in the news, but I don't think it's probably moving the stock very much, is Cybertruck. And
Hmm.
Cybertruck's been in the news because they're not selling, according to everybody. They're hardly selling any, and they're having to lower the price, and they had to drop the price on again. Today there was some news that they're dropping the price, but what are they dropping the price on? Are they dropping the price on the $70,000 vehicle? Are they dropping the price on the 60,000? No. The cheapest vehicle that's available right now is still the 79,950 minus the 7,500 from the government, but that's not the one that they're dropping the price on.
Okay.
They're dropping the price on the 2024 Cybertruck. They had a few left in stock, and those don't get the $7,500 discount.
Right.
So duh, you're going to have to drop those prices.
Hmm.
So,
Right. So they I'm not sure what the issues are, or if Jeff Lutz has mentioned the issues to scale to the $60,000 vehicle, right? Because if there was some kind of like, oh, we can't move these 79,000, really $80,000 vehicles, then getting to a low cost version at the 60,000, would make sense to accelerate that move. You have enough 4680s to double up production, right? At 1,000 a week, moving up
right,
to 2,400. So, you can sell 120,000 of some kind of Cybertruck. Um, so, the plan is to get to a $60,000 vehicle. If you run out, then okay, we introduce a lower cost vehicle. And I would think that would you're addressing, a larger TAM, total addressable market, if you have a $60,000 vehicle.
sure.
Especially if you still have the $7,500 tax credit, it'd be like a $52,000 vehicle, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I haven't heard any negative stuff from Joe Tegmeyer in terms of the number of Cybertrucks that are out in the parking lot. You would think that Joe would be the first one to throw up the red flag and say, "Hey, they're hardly making any trucks here." But I think even the $79,000 vehicle with the $7,500 discount probably is going to sell a ton better than, let's say, a $79,000 one without a $7,500 discount.
right,
So.
right,
I would think we got a long way to go before we know. And again, as much as we're all excited and interested in the Cybertruck, it's not really going to be the needle mover long term.
right,
It's never going to compare to the Model Y. It's not going to compare probably to the new vehicle. Certainly not going to compare to energy storage. Those are all much bigger issues than the Cybertruck. Well, there's also the competition is coming. So lots of conversations this week about competition in China, Xpeng, and I'm going to forget the name of the other one. It's similar.
Xiaomi and
Xiaomi.
Xpeng, yeah, yeah.
Xiaomi, I think, is going to have a Model Y competitor, a little more expensive than the Model Y.
Hmm.
Xpeng is making really good cars, and their numbers are pretty good.
Hmm.
So we've always known. What do you call it? The yeah, BYD getting their a better ADA system that became the story one day that was all
Hmm.
about that situation. We've always known that there was going to be good competition in China. So
Right.
I have a feeling that a lot of that is blowing over, but what do you think?
Yeah. People we've always known that the Chinese car makers are no joke, that there's a strong competition. Elon said it multiple times on the earnings call that China car makers are very competitive, and Tesla's share is still strong in holding in China. And I think with the new Model Y, that it will do very very well. So I'm not worried about competition. And of course, the thing is, having a driver assist system is not the same as full self-driving, and that BYD does not have full self-driving,
Right.
right? And nothing close to that. They actually only started their autonomy process like 2 years ago, and so there is no other company with a full self-driving system. So if we get to that in in June, unsupervised, and then scale it to US wide, and then global by the end of next year, that is a completely different. We're next level, right? So then all this stuff goes away.
So, so what is your sense? Do you have any sense at all? And I know you have never even lived in the mainland to have any specific knowledge of this, but I think you do have
I lived
relative,
in Hong Kong for almost 2 years. I lived in Taiwan for 8 months,
right? And
and
you
then I
have,
visited China, from Hong Kong and other things
yeah.
over there. Yeah.
What do you think in terms of the Chinese population? Do you think there's any, uh, do you think there's a strong buy China, or do you think that in the middle upper class that there might be a strong buy this exotic product, even though it's made in China, by the Tesla because it's an Elon
The
Musk thing?
Chinese buyer is mainly focused on quality and technology. So, the Chinese government may put in barriers to buying, you know, further tilting the thing to domestic versus foreign. But the car buyers themselves, when they look at the price, and they'll look at a lot of details about technology. They'll know what the chip is. They'll as much as we follow it, those buyers are following those things in detail. They'll know about the ADAS. They'll know everything about those vehicles. And
So
so,
they're
but
gonna.
the main thing is quality technology. If you have better technology, like a good driving system, that will matter more to them than to the U.S. buyer.
So it'd be like when you and I were kids and we popped the hood, huh?
Right,
They're like popping the chip. Hey, look at my chip.
right.
It's
They,
like,
they dive deep into the technology of their products.
interesting, interesting. Yeah, all right. So the tech obviously certainly Tesla is always going to be a leader in the technology. And from what I'm hearing is that the builds are just getting better and better and better in
Mhm.
terms of the overall car, the quality, and then performance. It's never been an issue. So if they're looking for performance, they've certainly got that going. All right, so then now we've got a bunch of robot videos coming out and robot conversations going on all week from all the regular players and some of the new players.
Mhm.
Even had a fake one today that I thought was real at first with was what's that? The one in the kind of the leader in China, uh,
Oh, Unitree.
Unitree, with this
Right.
dancing robot that really had smooth moves. Well, it turned out, I guess it was fake. But
Mhm.
but anyway, a lot of conversation now around the robots with Figure and the other big US maker actually shipping their first orders or getting at least their first orders
Mhm.
to ship out to customers. I'm not worried long term. Personally, I'll be perfectly happy if Tesla ends up with 25% of the market. What are you thinking about the robot?
It's basically for the Tesla story, for Tesla bot. I think it's irrelevant for the first 2 years. In the ramp to know. So if we get 5,000, then this year, 10,000 this year, and then 50 to 100,000 next year, the selling to other people thing is irrelevant. It's more, can Tesla use Tesla bots Optimus to increase factory um, Tesla factory production, right? Because they're not giving. any of these things to anyone else. They're not selling them to anyone else. It's like we're going to use these things to increase our own productivity.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if they say, you know, let's say they can magically double their productivity, right? So that they have the unbox process and they have the unbox process with Tesla bots, right?
Right.
You still
Right.
have humans, but like say one bot to one human, you get to that level, and then you increase production by 100%, right? Probably can't do that, but let's just say they could do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%, that would mean instead of making 3 million cars, you can make 6 million cars,
Mhm.
right? Or you can make 4.5 million cars with way lower costs, right?
Right. Right.
If you run the numbers of that, you would see, holy crap, margins have gone to 40%. The amount of profit and stuff like that would triple or something, right? So that would be the huge impact, way more than did I sell 100,000 bots at $100,000, right? 100,000 bots at $100,000, huge price, right?
Right.
That would be what, $10 billion, right?
Yeah.
Not chump change, but if I double production, I
Right.
go from $150 million to $400 million, right? If it, only 50% or only 20%, it's like I take like only 30%. I added 30 billion off that. So the pure numbers and profit are if I actually can use them to make myself more productive,
Right, right,
right?
right. Or replace. I looked at it, of course, because I'm a manufacturer. I looked
Right.
at it the opposite way, and I'm like, oh, every one of those bots that I have out there that's replacing 4 workers because it's 4 shifts. Maybe it's not always 4 shifts, but if it's 4 shifts, we'd be talking at Tesla, $320,000 per bot that it
Right.
would be contributing to the bottom line, and that's just normal payroll and the regular Social Security and stuff on top of it
Yeah.
is $80,000 per employee that it replaces.
So then that again goes to like, you're at this $10 billion, $20 billion, but it's taking it right out of
Cost.
your cost of goods sold,
Yes.
right? So then your margin going like whoop, it's like going huge, right? So when you get to a million bots, 10 million bots, now there's like okay, I'm getting them out there and they're generating, all this money, from early manufacturing adoption where I'm helping other companies do the same thing and
Right.
they'll pay us through the nose in order to get that. Then that matters because now it becomes even more. Okay, now it's maybe even bigger than the boost to my productivity is that me boosting productivity for 10 million workers, the entire US manufacturing area, right? Now the amount of money that I'm getting from that is huge. If I actually can do it for manufacturing. So
Right.
selling it for selling other people selling, I think Aptronics and others, if I sell a home robot,
Right.
Unitree selling a
Right.
$16,000 robot,
Right.
I have to sell like 10 times more,
And
20 times more to get the $300,000 benefit, the $100,000 benefit,
right.
right? Because just selling it and then someone doing something useful but not super productive
Right.
with it
Right.
is less. So again, it's not all robots are equal. Not all use cases are equal. It's like
Right.
if I actually change productivity, it's like going back to the 1800s, something like that, right? If I get some loom thing where I'm doing things manually to make textiles, and that shift over to a machine that's 20 times more productive for
Right.
making clothes, by changing the production of things, that is it was the difference in World War II, right?
Right.
The US making 10 times more tanks, 20 times more tanks means that I beat the Germans, right?
Right.
So it's the same kind of thing.
All right. So, and then we have, I think we need to put it to rest here. We had Meta's stock went up the other day. Some people thought it was because they announced that they were going to get in the robotics business. I'm not sure that was it, but the way they're getting in the robotics business is only sounding like the way NVIDIA's in the robotics business. They're just want to offer some software and some of their LLM capabilities and reasoning and et cetera. So they said, so far we're not planning to really make a bot. So
Yeah. So one thing is Mark Zuckerberg is now the second richest person in the world. So with the move up in Meta stock, he passed Jeff Bezos of Amazon to be second behind Elon Musk. So one thing is Meta is, you know, with their 3 billion some users of their, Facebook,
Book and
Instagram, WhatsApp, all that kind of stuff, they can monetize that very well. And their numbers and business model around that, especially enhanced with AI features, for to keep people on their, you know, the social media stuff is a very powerful economic thing. So they can get, a stock doubling, a stock tripling from here just from doing their thing better, doing their Facebook, the advertising and all the other stuff that they're doing. And then if they can land the um, Oculus thing, although I personally don't think that the demand's gonna be there to the level that they need. But they'll probably make glasses like this that
right,
would have some interface. They want to control the on-ramp. So instead of going through a phone where they got to pay
right,
Apple all
right.
that money, they can, if they ever got control of something that had, a billion users or 2 billion users, then they would be free of Apple, right? Anyway, so that's what they're doing. So in stuff like robots or launching new businesses, you know, that's they're playing for the long term to make sure that they're good there. But the near term benefit would take insane scale for them to move the needle with anything technology wise.
Right, right, right. And then Disney is flirting with us by putting out some kind of a little image, a morphing image on X today. Disney is back advertising on X, which was some very good news, I'm sure, to X. There's somebody else, Apple. Yeah, I'm sorry, Apple and Disney, both, right, are back.
So yeah, basically all the companies are coming back.
Yeah,
They did the boycott because of
yeah,
political reasons, things like that, and now for political reasons, and I'm sure you know
economic
ethical or
reasons.
whatever economic reasons, they came back. So and then um, uh, X is profitable. They said that. So that was, and there was a hockey stick of people of companies coming back to advertise starting a few months before the election. They
Ah,
started to cover the bases,
yeah.
and then now, given the power that Elon had with the administration, they're all making sure, yeah, come back.
So you think you shouldn't bet against Elon, huh?
Yeah, don't bet
Um,
against Elon.
so it looks like X is going to be extremely profitable.
Yeah.
And XAI, I think, is probably going to do pretty well also. So, okay, so we got all these robots. Again,
Just on the XAI, so there was the announcement that Elon had
oh,
when he
yeah,
was talking to Dubai
yeah,
that Grok 3 should be out by the end of this month.
right.
Again, it's 2 weeks, but
Yes.
by the
Yeah,
end of this month,
yeah,
it should be out. And according to him, it beats all the other metrics. And then going forward, they could have a lead that they will not give up. That
yes.
they'll quickly release the Grok 4, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would, as much as Elon is very, very involved in DOGE right now, and everybody's worried about him being distracted, and I don't think he cares about money. I don't think he wants Zuckerberg to pass him.
Hmm. Right.
I think he would rather have Bezos pass him than have Zuckerberg pass him.
Yes.
Not
I would
because
agree.
now they're buddies again, but I just don't think. I just think that would be one of those kind of things where he would be unhappy if Zuckerberg passed him as richest
Right.
guy in the world.
Right.
So the two of them can have a competition to get to trillionaire status. And I think right now, certainly they are the two that have the best shot.
Mhm.
However, based on my year and almost 2 years, 2.5 years now of hanging out with you, I suspect that SpaceX is going to help Elon get there way ahead of anybody else.
Well, he had multiple things. So SpaceX, once they get the fully reusable rocket working, the Starship and stuff, and launching the satellites, it's already at 350 billion. If it does all that, it gets 2000 the big version 3 satellites up. By the end of the year, it could hit $1 trillion, and then that'd be 400 billion, 450
Elon.
billion for
Yeah.
Elon from just SpaceX alone. X and XAI with Grok 3, Grok 4. That could be worth 200 billion, and then Elon has over half of X and XAI. So each of those, both of them, could become worth $200 billion because X would have its version of PayPal
Right.
coming out where you
Correct.
do payments. So that's
Yes.
within a month or two of that happening. And then XAI, like the Grok 3, Grok 4, if they get ahead, then they're worth more than OpenAI. OpenAI's valuation might be $300 billion if SoftBank invests $40 billion, that they would have a valuation of $300 billion. So if XAI was better, then you could say, okay, they could get to $400 billion, $500 billion on that.
Doesn't,
So,
wouldn't they need to have some kind of a better what would you call it, platforming, some kind of a their app be a little more out there? Because right now, all the other apps, I mean, even the all-in podcast guys, or even the BG2 guys,
B2,
when they do their shows, they always mention they'll mention XAI, but it's always kind of like, oh, and XAI, because I think the platform is not as I don't know, accessible, or people aren't using the platform as much yet.
right. I think worst case that gets totally solved by the first half of next year, but I think it does get solved this year. The thing that can happen is that um, Starlink is going direct to cell phone, right? So then one, they could direct the communication to it. They could launch their own phone off that stuff, and then they could have something where you're directly connecting to it or a really good app on there. So I'm expecting them to come out with really good apps for one, if, for payments, because they'll want to be on every phone to do payments.
Right,
Because
right.
how else can you do it, right?
Yep, yep.
So then they need to get broadly 2 billion phones via these channels, right? So they're going to get everywhere. It's going to happen. I
So what you're thinking is that maybe the marketing of the apps is kind of in the background right now. It's all being done. It's all being set up uh,
right.
for when they have this additional exposure. Uh,
Right, and they'll have a version one everything app.
yeah, yeah,
So the everything app is
right,
WeChat in China.
right,
Everyone uses for payments. It's Apple Pay. It's everything all
right,
in one thing.
right,
So if you have payments, for your thing,
right,
if you have communications, if you have news and stuff, then you have X for payments. You have your XAI to talk to the interface, your Grok, and then you'd have the Starlink communications. Then you have X for your social media, right? So you'll have the pieces of an everything app, right? So at the prediction, we can say that for this thing, Brian Wang says everything app, worst case for, X Starlink, everything is first half, by the middle of 2026. But I say a first version of that before the end of the year is highly likely.
okay.
My guaranteed prediction is by the middle of next year,
Middle of
but
next year.
highly likely second
This
half of this year or earlier.
Well, the payment thing, I think, is coming pretty soon
Right.
because they're really starting to push that. So
Right.
I think that part of your prediction will certainly.
And that will be an XAI app that would then be on your phone.
Right.
And if you right now there are 600 million occasional users um, of X
Hmm.
in there,
Okay.
and heading toward a billion. So if they make it a really enticing reason to do payments via
Right.
X,
Right.
right, then that'd be a game changer. I'm not sure the first version would be super duper attractive, but they would make the offer and then they would refine it quickly to a version two.
Well, maybe he'll go back. Maybe he'll go back to the original PayPal days,
Right.
and he'll offer us a $25 gift
Mhm.
to put the new payment system hook it up to our bank.
Or he can also combine it with like Dogecoin or something like
Yeah, that's
that.
true.
So, so the I'm expecting some kind of launch around that. And if Grok 3 is the best and it has voice interface, worst case a Grok 4, that would still be this year, right? With this app, I think it'd be very, very compelling to get a lot of constant interaction with um, with the Elon companies.
Okay. All right. I was just looking to see if it was still true. No, no, it's not true anymore. If you count the after hours for the week, Tesla was down about 90 cents.
Mhm. Yeah.
For a minute there, it was like 8 cents for the
Mm.
week. But it's gone down a little bit more in the after hours. So apparently the Stanley Druckenmiller Ray Dalio thing is not popping it up in the after hours. It's down a whole dollars and $1.92.
Mm.
Okay, so we had a week of the Tesla hardly doing anything. Then it turns out that the bond market also, after all the CPI and PPI and everything else, all this stuff all week, everybody be getting all upset that the bond market has returned to just almost exactly where it was on Monday. So,
Mhm.
so the 10-year is now back to, well, let's go ahead. Let's not say almost or about. Let's go ahead and get right to it. The bond closed out today down 47 cents at $4. I'm sorry, 4.478%. So that's very, very close to where it was at the beginning of the week after going up to 4.5, well, no, 4.6 and change. Came back all the way down to 4.47. So I've been making some lot of predictions lately on all these other things. So I said oil would be under 70 by the end of the week. Didn't quite make it. Oil came $70.57. Brian
Mhm. Yeah.
missed it by 58 cents. I'm still saying it'll be under 70 next week sometime and probably more like 65, 60, well, 66, 67. Gold, I said it was going to pop through 3,000. It didn't. It didn't, Brian.
Yeah.
No, in fact, it went down 51 today, so now it's under 2,900 again. I'm
Mhm.
still saying it goes through 3,000. Do
So
you have any
let's say
opinions on these things?
let's say in the next 2 to 4 weeks that there's a ceasefire in Ukraine, right?
Yeah,
Because that's on the table, right?
right,
That they're discussing that, negotiating that heavy. Um, so that could happen, right? Um, so that should drop both gold and oil if that was to happen, right? Because then you'd have more um, production supply. We could buy Russian oil again, right? That could be part also
Oh,
of a peace deal, right? Is that we would allow, okay, we have peace, Russia can sell gas and oil again, right? Because people say, well, why would Putin do the deal, right? He's kind of winning the war and that kind of thing. That if he can, his main economy thing would be the thing that okay, we're Trump, I'm thinking is probably saying, okay, we'll have peace on oil, which is good for us too, because if we take down oil, we take down interest rates. He wants that, right?
right,
So peace with Russia means, okay, now we're buying their oil again, and they make more money because they don't have to sell at a discount
right,
to China and
right,
and India, whatever, because they have to do it. They're 10, $20 off per barrel,
right.
right? So then they can make more money. So that could be a big shift in our economy. What's your opinion? Did that happen?
Yeah, I think you're right about oil. I think oil will come down anyway,
Mhm.
because I think Argentina is already increased, I think from 250,000 barrels to 750,000 barrels a day. They're planning to get to 1 million barrels a day. And I think if Javier says he's going to do it, it'll be at 1 million barrels a day. I think that there's going to be more production in the United States, one way or the other.
Mhm.
Some of these oil producers have said, well, just because Trump says he wants us to, it doesn't mean we're going to. I think they're going to.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so and I've also got, of course, I'm sorry, Nicholas Gibbs is kind of got some special expertise in the oil area. He agrees. He thinks it gets down to probably $59 a barrel, 58, something
Mhm.
like that. On the
Right.
gold, I think that's a little different. I think, yes, I think if there's peace in the world, maybe gold relaxes a little, but the problem is that China, India, South Korea, sovereign wealth funds are buying gold. China bought so much gold the last 6 weeks. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like one of those hockey sticks, it's
Mhm.
like that. South Korea's been buying it, and then the citizens of China, the citizens of South Korea, and the citizens of the United States have been buying a lot of gold. So there's kind of a gold rush, a gold,
So
know,
then a long-term gold bull market, because the US is going to create like a 2 trillion or $3 trillion sovereign wealth fund themselves, or
right,
ourselves.
right.
So then that's going to be stood up in 12 months. And so that means that a huge demand for probably gold, cryptocurrencies, and stocks.
Yes.
So a general stock boom, because the sovereign wealth funds like Norway and other things, they tend to invest in a range of assets because they got to invest in everything. They can't
Right,
like, okay, I only invest in,
right.
some stuff. Basically got to have a stake in all the assets. So it'd be a lot of stocks, startups, but also gold and cryptocurrencies. So
Yeah, and I heard a conspiracy theory the other day from one of these guys on X who has pretty good following, and he thinks that the United States is also buying up a bunch of gold right now.
okay.
And it's kind of sub rosa, but he thinks it's really it's a true thing that's part of the sovereign wealth fund that they're trying to build, and another way to kind of cripple the BRICS effort. So. Okay, so then we got crypto, or we've got Bitcoin rather. Bitcoin, I'm not making any predictions on Bitcoin. It was up again today, 1400. It's sitting at 97,598. It has been stuck in the mid 90s now for I think 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So why is it stuck? Is it going to march up higher, or will it test 60 before it goes to 150?
I can't see it dropping down to 60 because of the stuff we're talking about. The sovereign wealth fund of the United States coming in,
Mhm.
them Trump indicating that they're going to set up a crypto reserve, a US crypto reserve. Um, so that would be mainly Bitcoin plus Solar, some other US coins
Right.
that would be in there. So given the speed with which legislation is passed, or that legislation is expected to pass, and the actions from Trump on executive orders, I cannot see how before the end of the year they would not have stood those up. That they would have said, okay, now we create the even they built their assets over the 2026, them announcing it in 2025 officially.
Mhm.
And then everyone's expecting that to happen. So how can you say, oh, I'm going to sell and get out at go down to 60 when you know that's going to happen?
Okay, so then let's, as the last thing, we'll talk equities. I have not been making any predictions about equities in general. I don't go, oh, I think we're going to have all-time highs or any of that kind of stuff, but we are sitting at all-time highs. And virtually, I mean, we're like this far off in some cases, but close enough that you could call it all-time highs. We've got, bonds potentially. Maybe there's going to be a rally in bonds, so that's going to be fighting for some of those dollars. We've got, commodities might, anyway, in general, I'm looking for a real strong possibility of a recession. Second quarter, because of the amount of money that's going to be coming out of government payrolls and the amount of money that's going to be coming out of government acquisitions or procurement.
Okay.
And last year, the government was probably about at least half of the GDP increase. So if you take that half out, and maybe it goes, instead of going up, it goes down. Maybe we're, instead of 1% of 2%, it's negative 1% of 1%. Anyway, we could be at zero.
So I would take the opposite side of that.
Oh
So
wow.
we're going to disagree.
Oh,
So
Larry and you on the same page. Here we go.
I'm for the melt up. Well, I'm taking Larry's place for this call, right? So I have, I think they need a melt up. I've heard the theory of the
Yep.
melt up. So
Yep.
the melt up theory is that we're, as I said, all-time highs,
Right.
but the magnificent six, seven are at, their 50-day or 100-day moving average. They've all come down, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
typically those,
Are
Apple, all those
beating.
companies would bounce off of those levels and go back up again. So if
Hmm.
everything else is very good and then or relatively good, and
Hmm.
these pop up 10, 20, 30%, they're 30, 40% of the market, they would then lift the market by 10%, right? Or 15%, right? And then, yes, we're taking money out of this the system, or okay, we're not going to spend $300 billion or $40 billion, but the um, having the interest rates come down because the bond market sees that inflation will go down because of this activity, I think would be a positive for the market. So the like the yeah, everyone kept saying, okay, once we do some rate cuts and blah blah blah, then everything's wonderful. If the data shows, okay, now we're slowing down the economy, but we're taking out the inflation, and then interest rates would follow, and
Right.
interest rates going down would then, I think, increase the markets.
Well, there is one aspect of what you're saying that I definitely agree with, and that is, they say that if these uh, uh, federal government employees now have to go to work in the private sector, that they will be way more productive. And
Mhm.
I understand there's lots of jobs available right now for strawberry pickers.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I think they'd be more productive as strawberry pickers than they are doing what they're doing now. So anyway, we'll see how all that fares out. Okay, so listen, if you like seeing Brian Wong's face, if you like seeing him on this channel, it's going to be a Brian Wong weekend. So we got Brian tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the economy again. I think our first show is about the economy, but it's a little more in depth.
But the yeah, um, DOGE cutting uh, things in from federal spending,
Right.
and then how that can help the overall economy, and how do we get there? Yeah.
Yeah, even possibly eliminating the income tax. So anyway,
Mm.
that's a really good one. You got to see that one. I haven't decided if that'll be in the morning or at night tomorrow night, but it'll be tomorrow. And then on Sunday, again, that'll be Sunday morning. Brian and I are going to be talking about the end of war, or at least a complete change in how war is conducted. And this
Mm.
is not based on Brian and my normal thing of just talking about strategies and the different kinds of equipment and
Yeah.
whatnot. We've done a lot on his channel. No, we're going to be talking about current events where the president of the United States just said he wants to cut the military budget by half.
Right.
Who knew?
Right.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And later tonight, AJ, you got AJ coming on at 7:45 tonight. You don't want to miss that. He's going to be talking about the first quarter, giving us his estimate, such as it is. All right, Brian, thanks so much for stepping in
Thank you.
at the last minute, and we will see you guys all weekend. And it's been great talking to you.